just down in Chicago city centre, and unfortunately I'm only here for 2 days, so I have a couple of hours just to spare, so I thought I better come down and kind of see what it's like, because it'd be such a shame to be in Chicago but not actually get to see the city centre. And it's actually very nice, so it is. It's completely different than New York, but it's not like busy, like as in like that. It's uncomfortable and not enjoyable. So this morning I actually had a great session with a guy. I actually thought this morning, getting up, like, what the hell am I going to do for 3 hours with this guy? And because sometimes, like, time can seem long, but I must say the time absolutely flew, and before I knew it, like, our time was up. And it was so good to get talking to someone who was very interested in the whole scene, and kind of see his perspective on things. It's funny because, like, the person he sessions with most is a very well-known bodybuilder, and I kind of thought, well, like, why the hell are you sessioning with me? And he kind of explained it to me that it's actually strength he's into, so it doesn't necessarily mean that the girl has to look like a bodybuilder, and that girls that appeal to him can also be girls that have a real, like, CrossFit style body, that are able to flex just as much and kind of show their strength. So I think it was pretty cool in that it kind of lets you see that it's not just necessarily people that are into bodybuilders, that's just all they like, or people that are into kind of wrestling, that's all they like. People can dabble in between things as well. And I suppose it makes me think of one guy actually that is very nice back home in Ireland. He kind of explained to me that it's like fast food. You can kind of, you can like pizza and you can like kebabs. You might like kebabs more, but it doesn't mean to say you never want pizza. So I suppose it's just trying to get your head around that as well. In your head, sometimes when you're actually a session girl, you're kind of thinking, about you and giving the guys exactly what you want.
Stop.
I'm just back in at the hotel and I'm getting ready for my sessions tonight. I was quite impressed with Chicago. It's very nice, and unfortunately didn't have as much time in it as I would have liked. I can definitely see why you call it the Windy City. There's definitely a breeze about it, and I was quite upset that I didn't have time to do a boat trip, because I think I would have quite liked to have done that and enjoyed it. And there's definitely a nice vibe about it, and certainly a bit of blues and jazz here and there as well about the city, which I quite like that kind of music. So maybe an excuse to come back for a longer trip next time. So tonight I have lift and carry up first with a bit of fancy wrestling, and for the following session it's a 2-hour session with 2 different kind of role plays and that as well. So I'll let you know how I get on with that later on. I've just wrapped up my tour here in Chicago, and it's about 12:30 at night. I'm very tired and I have to get up at about 4:30 in the morning, I think, to head to Vegas. So another early morning, which I'm not looking forward to, but I have a nice day off tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to. Chicago surprisingly went completely different to the way I thought it would. All the guys that I met were absolutely lovely for sessions, and I can't complain with that. But I must say there was a lot of cancellations. Some guys were quite good. There was one guy in that, I must thank him that he did pay his full session even though he cancelled, because it was kind of on his part. But the reason I'm touching on this is because I think it's important to kind of show that, touring about, it isn't all glamorous. It isn't all about, you go to these cities, you meet all these people, you session wrestle, you get to do sightseeing. it is hard work. Like, you do have to do a lot of traveling. You're on your own quite a lot of the time, and especially whenever like you go out of your way for someone, you set time aside, you maybe prioritize people over other people that maybe had wanted to book and turn them down. And then for someone to really just kind of email you, like literally tonight there, I was meant to have a session at 6 p.m. and the person emailed at 5 to 6 just saying, I'm not going to make it. It's quite frankly quite rude, I think. And I'm not being mean about it. Like, I mean, I know that kind of things can happen in work, and people get sick in circumstances, but surely people can kind of gauge what way their day is going to go, and they're kind of going to know if they're not going to make a session at a certain time. So I think this is kind of why girls do ask for deposits, and it is very important that people do that, so that because with the risk of traveling, you do have a high risk of losing out on quite a high substantial amount of expenditure, especially for international trips like myself. But all in all, Chicago, apart from that, all the guys were lovely. The only other second thing with Chicago was that myself, thankfully, due to another session wrestler kind of informing me, I can't say if it was or not. I don't want to speculate, and I don't want to say whether it was, because I kind of had one person said no, the person was okay, but I kind of had another person say no, it is the Chicago scammer. And in these kind of circumstances, scammers are very good in that they can make themselves appear very genuine, very nice, and when you say to them, that you can't session with them, it nearly makes me feel really guilty for turning down a session. And sometimes you have to think with your head as to what story you've been told, and ask other girls. And it's only through them that you kind of learn, because they've maybe been there, like, no, stay well clear of this person. And, people change their names slightly. And it really just does show you that, especially if you're a new girl in the scene, it's maybe your first time to a certain city, that, unfortunately there is that 5% that ruin it for the 95%. And this goes for session girls too. Like, I mean, there's been guys scammed by girls. So I think, we do have to be wary and always kind of think of ourselves. But apart from that, to not be all doom and gloom, Chicago was lovely. I really liked the city, and I actually do wish I had more time in the city centre and hadn't came out so early this evening for my session, which obviously didn't go to plan. The other guy I met tonight was absolutely lovely, and we'd actually had originally planned a couple of role plays in our head, but we actually went with the one in the end. And it was quite fun in that he'd obviously picked up on the fact I used to play rugby when I was at school, and so did he himself when he was at school. So we kind of went with the whole role play of that he was a rugby coach. I had to prove my strength in that, I wanted a place in the guys' team, and he wouldn't give it to me, so we kind of had a bit of fun with that. And then I obviously got to like kind of dominate him and show him a few moves. I actually managed to knock him out as well. I think he said 2 to 3 times as well within the session, which I wasn't aware of kind of my strength in that sense, that I was able to do that. So no, that was really good fun. And it was actually quite strange too in that I always say this to guys too, that sometimes you'll have people session one after the other that have very similar interests, and maybe that someone's been in earlier on that day, and you're kind of looking at your notes and you're going, I've taken that down wrong, or is this that person that is meant to be in now? Because I actually had done the very same role play basically with a guy in New York a few days ago. So it does show that you guys, you might think you have weird fantasies, but like, believe me, someone else will have that fantasy that you have, because as much as you think, oh, I don't want to talk to anyone about it, someone will think that's weird, somebody else out there will be able to relate to you, because like, I notice myself that as much as this is a niche, and people do have certain things that they're into, there is some guys that love all the same stuff. So that's it from me in Chicago. Sorry I didn't get to vlog as much kind of in the city centre and that, because I didn't have as much time free. But next stop is Vegas, and I have a lot of stuff coming up there, so keep tuned.